Welcome to the Get Trauma Informed podcast, dedicated to unraveling the complexities of trauma, its pervasive impact, and the journey towards holistic recovery and realignment. If your radiance has ever felt muted, like I and thousands of others, you're in the right place to reignite your inner light. I'm your host, Wellness Coach Liz Blanding, and this is the Get Trauma Informed podcast. Well, on today's episode, we have an amazing guest here, and I am really excited for you, Marc, to share your story. How are you today?
I'm wonderful today. It's a beautiful day here in Chicago. Sun's out. You can't ask for much more.
Absolutely. I think we sort of share in Michigan and Chicago. We kind of bounce off of each other. So yes, it is a beautiful day today, and the sun is shining bright. So I'm excited too.
We don't get it often, so when we get it, we enjoy it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me share with you all why I'm so excited today and why I'm excited that Marc took some time out of his busy schedule to share his story with us. Marc is the founder of Marc Jacobson and Associates. He has supported thousands of people in their journey towards financial security. And man, we talk about some trauma there if you don't have financial security. So we're going to get a lot of great nuggets today. He was also actually, is it 35 years as a financial advisor? That's a lot of firepower under you, a lot of experience. So yes, absolutely. And then recognized with more than 29 industry awards for outstanding achievement. Oh, we got to hear about that, Marc, right?
I think that's always a result of not the reason, but that's the result of having a great sense of purpose in the morning. So.
Oh my goodness, I love that. And there's just so much here that we can talk about as far as your National Honor of Merit and being a keynote speaker. And the one of my favorite, when I looked at and watched a couple of times your TEDx talk, I think there was so much for us to learn in there about connections, especially connections being so important. As we kick off and get started, I want to ask you this one question that we kick our conversation off with, and that is, what does Get Trauma Informed mean to you?
Well, I think to me, it's a state of thought. We've all been in situations that have been compromising and create trauma. And the question really is, how do you get out of that trauma? How do you see through when it gets dark out in the sky? And I think to me, trauma is something that is necessary to overcome. That changes the way that people look at you, the way they act, and when they operate with it. And there are three words that usually get me out of trauma. And I love to share it with it, although this is obviously ad hoc. We didn't rehearse any of this. But the word is solve the problem. If you focus on solve the problem, those three words, you'll do more to get out of it than to run the loop. And I think everybody in this world knows what the loop is. The loop is, I'm doomed. I'm never going to make it. I'm never going to get out of here. And when you use the word solve the problem, which is something that I came up with after that trauma that happened to me, everything became very clear. And clarity is something that is very difficult that comes from trauma. Usually either people cycle downward with it, they stay neutral, but there's very few that rise above it. So that's what it would mean to me.
Love this. This is incredible, because solve the problem. Yeah. Man, and it sounds so simple, but that is like a key, Can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned it about your trauma and what happened with you in the accident. I think that'll bring some clarity in our conversation.
So about 10 years ago, I was making a right turn on red. I got hit from behind, and a lady hit me from behind. It wasn't a big deal. No injury. I felt fine. There's no damage to the car. Unbeknownst to me, though, it would start a fire that would change my life forever. A week later, I'm working out. I can't raise my arm. Saturday night turns into the hospital. The hospital says, "Hey, listen, your neck's fine. There's no problem with anything. You need to see a neurologist." I go, "What's a neurologist?" And next thing you know, I'm in front of a neurologist. He takes a look at my fingers. And I could see fear hit his eyes. And I'm, hey, doc, everything okay? He goes, yeah, we're fine. I know I've been lied to. He says, listen, C4, C5 is not doing well in your neck. Um, I have a dear friend over at Northwestern in Chicago. I'm going to set up so you go down there right now. So I want you to drive down there right now. I go, right now? He goes, right now. So I drive myself down there and he meets me in the waiting room. I know there's trouble. I mean, that just doesn't happen. And he takes me in the back. He takes a look at my MRI and he goes, listen, uh, you have four vertebrae in your neck that are broken. I don't even know how you walked in here. And we have to do surgery today. If you want a second opinion, we're going to have to bring other people in. And, I don't think there's anything that scares you more than listening to this. And by the time he gets done with it, he says, listen, you've got a 50-50 to survive the surgery or 50-50 ever walk.
Wow.
And, everything just turns to gray. And long story short, 9 hours of surgery. I come out of surgery. He asked me if I could raise my right arm, and I muster every ability I can, and it raises, which is, wonderful. And then he asked me something I hope nobody in your podcast ever hears.
Mm.
Would you like to see if you could walk? And, in the most humbling statement, I get up and I start to walk. Not well, but I'm walking. He says, listen, the nerves are firing. We don't know how long this is going to go. And, there's so much uncertainty that you don't know anything. The only thing you know is that you've survived round one. But now round two is I want to walk. And some would say, that sounds greedy. You're right. It is greedy because I really did want to walk again.
Right.
And unfortunately, I was paralyzed for a year, long story short, and it took me another year to learn how to walk.
Mm.
And during that time, I was able to do things I wanted to do rather than things that I had to do. And one of the things that I really obsessed about was understanding connection.
Mm.
And with that kind of time on your hands, rather than watching daytime TV, it's amazing what you can do. And I wrote a best-selling book called Cracking the Code of Connection. I was able to speak around the country. I was able to inject it into 5 Fortune 500 companies and do some really tremendous work with it. But in that bed, there were 3 words that got me through each day: solve the problem. And honestly, and I mean this sincerely, I probably would have eaten deer droppings to walk again if it would have worked. I mean, there was nothing I didn't try. And finally, cryotherapy released the atrophy so that I could start to walk again and recover. And today I'm 100%, which I am very fortunate every day that I'm able to do that. But I never forget the changes that happened during that time that have allowed me to touch people and to connect with people who would have never thought to deal with me. And it starts and ends with understanding why you get up in the morning, and more importantly, why should anybody ever care? And from that point, the research that I did from bed, and a lot of the research, honestly, I don't remember because I was under Oxycontin, Oxycodone, Xanax, Percocet. I mean, you name it, I was under all the meds with a broken neck and recovery with it. And from that period of time, I was really able, from the research, to come up with 4 words that kill connection, and then the 4 antidotes that allow connection to go. The problem with the words is that these are common words. These are words that people hear every single day. And, a TED Talk's only 14 minutes long. So you really have to be very concise and to the point. So there's so much stuff that wasn't included in that TED Talk because otherwise you're going to lose the audience. It has to be laser focused. And I'm very fortunate to have 2.6 million views, of which I don't have 2.6 friends. So you can
Oh
imagine
my goodness.
how stunning that is. And obviously that's all said with fun and candor. But I think that's
Yes,
what it's about. I think that you need to take a look at these types of things, step back and try to have fun with it. Rather than say,
absolutely.
why me? Um, the word should be solve the problem.
That is amazing. Yes, that's absolutely amazing. And what I heard was purpose,
Yeah.
right? to be able to do that type of recovery, there is purpose, and we have a connection here because I was told the same thing as far as mobility in my legs if I didn't have double knee replacement surgery. And so, that's a whole nother story in the holistic realm. But I totally understand when you say you're headed one way and then all of a sudden your purpose hit. And that's what I saw. And I thank you for sharing that.
It's my pleasure. And if there's anything the viewers walk out with today, are those four words that we'll get to in a little bit, and then solve the problem. Rather than depending on other people, it's important that you take action because purpose without action is nothing. It's
Right.
nothing. And so if you can't answer the question, why do you get up in the morning? And more importantly, why should anybody ever care? Then you're just going through life with motions. I have a dear friend and a partner of mine who's an ophthalmologist, and she's amazing. And she has a great purpose in every day getting up in the morning to make sure that people can see clearly. I mean, think about that for a second. So once you have your purpose, you can work it backwards to the solutions. If there's any experience here that I can give with people that are looking to start with a purpose, it can't be about what you do each day because nobody cares. And it can't be how you're going to do it better because nobody cares about that either. What they need to do is understand that a purpose is doing something that is above one's self-interest. That's what a purpose is, period. So when people say, I'm here to help people, that's not a purpose. That's an action that may support it, but it's not going to define it. And if you really want engagement, and I worked so tirelessly on that TED Talk, I was rejected 81 times. 81 times.
Wow.
I mean, everybody and his brother rejected me. And it just made me stronger. Each one made me stronger. Every rejection made me stronger. And then finally, I got a call from a person overseas in London and said, in Londonderry, and said, listen, I love the fact that you've been rejected this many times, but you got 3 weeks to write it, perfect it, memorize it.
My goodness.
So, how do you do it? It's not how you do it, it's why you do it. And so when you understand why you get up in the morning, you can overcome any how in your way, said Viktor Frankl, who is the only survivor of Auschwitz in the 40s. He got up every morning to have another cup of coffee with his wife.
Mm.
There's really nothing to say for that. And again, the beauty of this is that it transcends race, color, ethnicity. It transforms everything. So this works with every single person in the planet. And in today's environment where there's so much divide,
Right.
commonality and purpose can really eliminate all of those issues if we just understand that it's all of us together, all of us having an equal opportunity to do things above our own self-interest, because that's where the magic starts and ends.
That is so amazing. I mean, I'm sitting here taking tons of notes and going to replay over and over because what you said is so rich. I love that, that it works for all of us, right? There is no real divide. And so, what is it that makes you come alive? And like you said, over and above. I love all of that. Can you share a little bit more about the words? That was something, and words are so powerful, right?
They really are. And again, to go along is to get along. This is just the way we've been taught, and it doesn't matter, again, religion, race, anything. These are biological truths that we've been able to not only come up with, but more importantly, perfect it in corporate America and on an individual basis. And so there are four death words, and we're going to go through these four, and I'll give you a little of the background of each of the forms and the type of work that we did on it. The first word is I. If you use the word I too many times, and you'll probably watch this in a presidential debate as the debate season comes up, and it doesn't matter what your pick is, they all violate it. Take a look at any person on TV that says, I did this and I did that. Pretty soon, there's not enough tequila in the room to kill the conversation. It just,
Yes.
and especially if you're out on a double date, I mean, all of a sudden they start dropping, I did that. I mean, it's awful, right? And then in the car on the way home, we hear, hey, listen, if we could if we could spend every epicycle of the moon with these people, that would be more than enough for me. And it's a response because I is a death word. So we'll go through the antidotes in a second. The
Okay.
second one is help, probably the most overused word in the English language. And the problem with the word help is that nobody wants help unless you're drowning, and then everybody needs help. Everybody else needs this other word. And I'm going to go through the magnification of changing these words over the period of time. And I think that's the reason we had so many views, is that for the first time, somebody really picked it apart and challenged the status quo with this. Now, should I have been paralyzed in order to do this? It would have never happened without it. So every dollar that I made from the books, the speaking, and it was a lot of money, was donated to the South Side of Chicago, to either Jesse Tumblers or to the Primo Center, to further people of less fortune, to give them opportunity. But again, opportunity means nothing without action. You can have all the opportunities in the world, but the minute you start blaming others for your inability to act or to work, you've lost. And again, transcends everything across all lines. And we're all guilty from time to time. I want this, I want somebody else to pay for it. In this world, there's only one thing that's going to work, and that's knowing why you get up in the morning and then going after it. Because if you're sitting waiting for people to take care of you, it's a very, very difficult, lonely place to be. And again, I think in today's environment, it's very difficult for people to say, "Hey, listen, I really should deserving of these things." But we're in a country where you have unlimited ability to do anything that you want, and it's something that we should never take for granted. So the help word is a death word, okay, and it kills connection. The next word, which is overused, is success. Are you successful? Am I successful? I don't know. I can't define it. But every person can get around this other word. So the three words that are death are I, help, success. And then the last one is it's the biggest culprit. And the word is but. So we'll start backwards from but. Nothing ever good comes after the word but. He's a really nice guy,
But
but it's coming. It's all bad, right? There's nothing good.
yes.
All the good stuff is going to go out the window in a second. In every situation. I've had interviews where I've said, you did this right, you did this right, but you haven't achieved these goals. That is a death word with it,
Right.
because I will spend a good 45 minutes why she defends that Lisa was good and she wasn't, and back and forth, and it's death. But if we inject a different word and we said, let's say you did this right, you did this right, this right, and if you and Jennifer can get your stuff straight, you're going to be up for a big promotion. So the substitute for but is and.
That felt great when you said that. I could feel the shift.
It's a huge shift, and it's a mind shift. And again, these are biological reactions that every person on earth has. Every person. It doesn't matter what your income level or any, it just has it. And if you watch this, you'll see how connection can get busted so quickly by just using that one word. The next one is, so we'll work it backwards. The next one is success. Are you successful? Am I successful? I don't know. But every single person can get around this word, and the word is potential. Every single person can get around living to your potential. So rather than saying, listen, my job is to make you successful, which is not actionable, it's far greater for us to say, our job is to make sure we unlock your potential. That being said, what's important to you? And most people say they want to be in a great environment where they can thrive. Now, whether they thrive or not, it's a different issue, but the environment typically isn't the reason that people don't thrive. It's because they allow little pebbles in their shoes to throw everything out. And no environment's perfect. But what can be perfect is the opportunity to live to one's potential. You'll create so much more connection with potential than you will with we're here to make you successful. The next word is help. Now, the reason that help is such a death word is because it's overused. I'm here to be helpful to you. Again, unless you're drowning, nobody really cares about help. but every single person can get around this word. And we used it at a place where when you walk into the place, they say, welcome to whatever the store name was. It's not important. How can I help you? And people would whiz by this person, and I'm watching this from a wheelchair. And so finally I walk up to the person and I'd love to, if I walked up to him, I rolled up to the person is a better thing in my wheelchair.
Right.
Mine just doesn't want me going back there, which is really kind of interesting. And again, your mind is your biggest asset. And I said, how many people stop? And he said about 4%. I said, I've been working on this study and I was wondering if you can inject one word instead of help. And he says, do you think I can get fired? I said, you're the so-and-so greeter. Nobody's really looking at you and nobody's stopping. What do we got to lose? And he says, fine. So I come back 3 days later and he eyes me and he goes, oh, we've got to talk. And so I'm huddled in a coffee store in this place and waiting for this greeter to come back to me. And he comes back to me and he says, that word has really changed everything. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, over 80% of the people now stop. I go, wow, incredible. I mean, that's unbelievable. 20x. He says, but I got a problem. I go, what's that? He goes, now I have to know where all the stuff's at.
Amazing.
Right. And so think about that for a second. You're in a position where one word can change everything. And the word is welcome. How can I support what you're looking for? Rather than help, it's support. These are things that really do change people's lives, all things being equal. And again, I think the importance of this is how do we pay it forward? So to bring, or more importantly, how do we reach back to pull others forward? It's not with money or any of those things. It's with inspiration to do things above your self-interest. That's the magic. And when we grew up, and we're probably pretty close to the same age. When we grew up, we would hear stories about how cars would back up and some 100-pound woman would be able to stop a car from running over a baby. And you wonder how she did it. It's not how, it's why. Because when the mind knows why it gets up in the morning to be protective, that's when things rise. And you see emotions. You see this in sports all the time. You see where, unfortunately, a father has passed away. And all of a sudden, the player on the field, female or male, plays the game of their lives.
Yes.
Right? Because they're doing things above self-interest, which is the magic here. So again, replace help with support. The last one is I. But what's the antidote that kills that? We is a good, better statement than I, and our is best. So we are here to make sure your financial security is set. Or our team is here to make sure that your financial security is set. See the difference between it? I'm here to make sure that you're successful. It just doesn't work. It's a death word. It's not going to create any connection with people versus our team is here to unlock your potential. Just two different words.
Absolutely.
But all the difference inside the brain. And I've been very fortunate. It's very nice about those accolades, but those accolades are a result of getting the purpose right, not the reason for it, but it's a result. Profit is never a purpose. It's a result of supporting other people. That's where the magic happens. If you can have a firm like ours that has over 600 of our clients who've retired with 6 figures worth of income, who never thought they could ever retire. Imagine what that looks like, all things being equal. Imagine what that looks like. That's the beauty of what the program looks like. And anything other than that is probably not going to work. You're just going to go through the motions of it. So it's delivering things to people that they never thought to ask for. And that's where purpose comes in, because once you have a purpose, you can work it backwards to the solution for it. So knowing why you get up in the morning and then injecting the 4 words into day-to-day life is really probably the most supportive thing that anybody can do that's listening to this podcast. And it's my pleasure to support your cause with this.
My goodness, I'm telling you, I've went through that whole biological reaction in everything that you said when you shifted the words and you changed it. I could actually feel it. So I'm grateful for that. Mark, how has trauma empowered and inspired you? But I think you kind of said it and you laid it out, as you went through your accident. But if you can give us a little bit more on how has trauma empowered and inspired you?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Imagine driving down the road, enjoying a beautiful day when suddenly a tree jumps out in front of your car. Crash! In an instant, your life is flipped upside down, both physically and psychologically. That was my reality. I'm Liz Blanding, a certified holistic wellness and trauma recovery coach. In a time when, according to the National Center for PTSD, the epidemic of trauma is on the rise, 70% of adults in the U.S. have experienced some type of traumatic event at least once in their lives. That's 223.4 million people who could benefit from support on their journey to recovery. To address this, I launched the Get Trauma Informed podcast in March 2024. Our podcast offers free information, resources, expert advice, and stories of those who have overcome trauma and shifted from surviving to thriving. The podcast has the capacity to reach hundreds of thousands of people. I believe that by partnering with the Get Trauma Informed podcast, we can provide critical support to many more people who need it. Trauma was not their fault, but recovery is their responsibility. And with your support, we can help them to achieve it. Thank you for considering the partnership opportunity. I look forward to the possibility of working together to make a significant impact on trauma recovery. Email us at info@oasiswellnessctrs.com or contact us at 616-320-0703. Now we will return to our Get Trauma Informed conversation.
So trauma is something to overcome. We all have trauma. The question is, how do we solve the problem, which would be the antidote to getting out of trauma? I can tell you this, that in order to overcome trauma, it is so important that you become your own advocate, because nobody's going to advocate for you like you are yourself. If someone says, listen, there's a 50-50 chance to walk again, or 50-50 that you're going to survive the surgery, you need to step back and say, hey, I get it, but those aren't odds I'm going to accept. So how do we reduce those odds? And in his case, he's like, listen, there's no promises. Really, for the first time in my life, I had no control over my outcome. And I don't know that there's anything more comfortable with that. But I will tell you that it changed my life forever. The relationships that were good in my life became solid, rock solid. The relationships that weren't good, I got rid of those relationships. I think we all hang on to people longer than we should in certain situations. So surrounding yourself with great, wonderful people is probably the most important thing that you can do in life. And, trauma sometimes creates it. With me, I was able to meet the woman of my dreams. I'm able to have the relationships of my dreams with people that are so close to me, and people that, were not good for me. I'm no longer with them. So that's how trauma has impacted me in my life.
Congratulations on all of the success in the relationships. That is so rich.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And we talk about that in trauma as far as removing toxic people, places, and things. And you just demonstrated what that looks like. So thank you for that. What would you say? And you've already done it. So you've already actually went through all of our standard questions, but so what would you say again?
Nothing standard about me.
I appreciate that. I completely appreciate that. I've been sitting here. I said, wait, you're hosting a podcast. No, I'm actually a student in this podcast. I'm enjoying this immensely. What would you say again? Well, you already said it to somebody that's facing trauma, to bring it on in again. What would you say to that person?
I think you need to accept it and then use those three words: solve the problem. And just don't stop till it gets solved, and be your own advocate in this situation is the simplest way that I would look at it. I think the more complicated we make things, the more difficult it is to action. the simpler that we make things, the easier it is to action with it. And I think that's one of the things that I think is so incredibly important for the listeners of this podcast to really walk away with those 4 words: know why you get up in the morning, and then solve the problem. That's it. Get yourself out of anything.
That is amazing. So, if someone wanted to get back in contact with you as far as the being able to secure their finances, and I think here we're talking about the ultimate retirement and helping people to get to that ultimate retirement. How would
Use
they
that
get in
word
contact
help.
with you?
You just use the
I
word,
did
oh
not.
my
Did
Lord.
I? Did I? Did I?
Oh
Did I?
my Lord.
Support. Let's go here. Support.
Wait, did I say, oh my gosh? Oh my gosh.
You know what? It takes, what is it, 21 times or 21 days to form a new habit. And I am consciously working on injecting your words into everything that is happening here. And this is phenomenal. So I thank you for that.
What I usually tell myself is never discount a highly motivated fool, which would be me, right?
I love it. I love it. I love it. So if someone needed support
Wow,
in
look at this. Oh my Lord. Yeah.
yes. Oh my goodness. I'm always a student here. So someone wanted support towards financial security. How would they be in contact with you?
They can call my cell phone, my private cell phone, 847-561-3131, or they can email me at marc at mjateam.com. And I respond to everybody. I just think it's important to reach back to pull everybody forward, and it doesn't matter on any issue. I'm just here to be supportive to it.
That's amazing, Mark. Even your voice is calming. When people are going through trauma, they look for safe spaces, and even your voice is like, we can do this. Again, another word, we can do this, right? And that's the message. That is the
I
message.
think Martin Luther King did a great job. Probably one of the most amazing speeches of all time. I Have a Dream was such a beautiful speech that started with I, but there's no I's after that. There's no I's after that speech. And again, you'll see great things. Once you understand these words, you'll see where they work and where they don't work. And all of a sudden you'll become cognizant of it. And I'm a great admirer of Martin Luther King. And his speech is, inspiring, and it inspired an entire country to look at things differently. It starts with that, but it did start with his dream. Right?
Yes, yes, I like that. I'm glad you made that distinction because we talk about the mind being such an asset, right? And the mindset being such an asset. And so when you open your mind up, and I love it when you stretch to the next dimension, your mind never goes back to the same. So, being able to practice this over and over again. And like you said, I like that when you distinguish between the beginning, he said I, and then after that, there was no more I's.
Right.
So it kind of took a little bit of that anxiousness away when I'm like focusing, and I'm saying me focusing on fixing or being the best person that I can show up in the world as. So when I is okay versus when it's we, and I love that you made that distinction.
There's nothing wrong with using I once,
Mm-hmm.
but more than once, and you're going to see a big drop in connection. Again, watch all these debates that are coming up, all this political season. Watch how many times somebody uses the word I or help, and see how it disconnects you from them. It's wild to watch it. Once you understand the science of this, it's really spectacular to do it. We were able, I'll give you one last story. So I was able to work in these Fortune 500 companies, but my favorite story was doing work for United Airlines. And I wanted to work with the guy they were going to fire, or a lady they were going to fire. I didn't want to work with the best. I want to work with who they were going to fire.
Mm.
And, during the pandemic, we were able to increase his sales by from 1 million to 18 million in a period of 1 year. And selling prepaid airline tickets in the pandemic. Okay. Yeah, I don't think it gets much more difficult than that. The difference is by doing this, all I did was inject purpose into this individual and those 4 words, and we drove it all day long. And it was amazing to watch the results of it. So, it works everywhere. It works with everybody that I touch. My job is to unlock your potential. That's what the job. Our team's job is to unlock your potential. And it's really a pleasure being here today. I enjoy this.
Thank you so much. I thank you for being here. And you have dropped enough nuggets for change, like immediate change. And that's what I love, when you can grab something, even in bite-sized palatable pieces, and you can drop it into your everyday and make a difference. And I love that. And you've accomplished that today. So I thank you for being here as well. And we look forward to, our connection as we continue to grow. So again, thank you so much, Marc, for being here.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. And thank you to everybody listening today.
You as well.
Thank you.
It's time to buckle up. No more suffering in silence. Our Power Pack journey to recovery and realignment starts now. Remember, you were collateral damage on someone else's warpath. Trauma is not your fault. Recovery, however, is your responsibility. I'm your host, wellness coach Liz Blanding, and this is the Get Trauma Informed podcast.